Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss conclusions that I've drawn from studying American history. You might not agree with my conclusions, but you should know about the characters and the events that I'm discussing to be conversant in American history, at least what I'm discussing, lots more. Um, so today we're going to talk about a little bit about Patrick Henry and his place in the mythology of religious liberty. um, and this is important that you know about this, even if you aren't really sure about its veracity. But here we go. One of the high points of this era that made America a nation of faith, a Christian nation, as Patrick Henry, a hero of the Revolution, called it, was his very own defense of preachers who were on trial for preaching without a license in 1770. Although the account of his defense is disputed among modern historians, it was accepted as fact by those closer to its occurrence. Here is the account of the event, excuse me, from the pen of historian John Mason Peck in his Baptist Memorial of 1845, as reported by Beller. And I'm quoting here from that one. About the year 1770, when three Baptist ministers were to be tried at Fredericksburg, Virginia, Patrick Henry, the great orator, rode some 60 miles to attend the trial and unexpectedly entered the courtroom as the indictment was being read. He listened as they were accused of, quote, preaching the gospel of the Son of God, contrary to Virginia law. When the indictment had been read and the prosecuting attorney opened the case, Patrick Henry, having glanced over the indictment, arose and addressed the court. And he supposedly said, may it please your worships, I think I heard read by the prosecutor as I entered this house the paper I hold in my hand. If I have rightly understood, the king's attorney of this colony has framed an indictment for the purpose of arraigning and punishing by imprisonment three inoffensive men before the bar of this court for a crime of great magnitude as disturbers of the peace. May it please the court, what did I hear read? Did I hear it distinctly, or was it a mistake of my own? Did I hear an expression as if a crime that these men are charged with what? For preaching the gospel of the Son of God? Swinging the indictment three times around his head, he exclaimed, great God, may it please your worships in a day like this when truth is about to burst its fetters, when mankind are about to be aroused to claim their natural and inalienable rights, when the yoke of oppression that has reached the wilderness of America and the unnatural alliance of ecclesiastical and civil power is about to be dissolved, at such a period when liberty of conscience, is about to awake from her slumberings and inquire into the reason of such charges as I find exhibited here today in this indictment. If I am not deceived, according to the contents of this paper I now hold in my hand, that these men are accused of preaching the gospel of the Son of God, great God. And with similar words, thrice repeated, he inquired, what law have they violated? The judge could endure it no longer and bade the sheriff dismiss these men. We'll be reading more of Patrick Henry's words about other issues later. Um, so I'm going to stop there, and we're going to have a little bit more discussion about the. Well, let me just go on. There's a great deal more to be said about the Great Awakening. It was a revival that led directly to America's independence from Great Britain, as well as a renewal and rebirth for a couple of generations of colonial Americans. Historians, church and secular, refer to several periods of awakening in American history, but none rivals this first great awakening of the common man's desire for God's righteousness through Jesus Christ, urged on by great and fearless preachers. While it is common in modern times to attribute our freedom to the power and might of our military, this sentiment was not universally accepted in older days. William Jay, writing in his 1849 A Review of the Causes and Consequences of the Mexican War, writes, were we permitted to trace the effects to their causes in the moral government of the world, we should doubtless find that much of our prosperity as a people flows from the labors of faithful pastors, self denying Sunday school teachers, and sincere, zealous, but humble Christian men and women. It is chiefly by such patriotism, gentle and noiseless as the dew of heaven, that our land is clothed with moral verdure and beauty, and that those who sit under their own vine, with none to make them afraid, are indebted for the peace and security they enjoy. Now, that's what William Jay said. Now, he was the son of John Jay, one of our founders. Now, as we get deeper into American history, we will be reading and hearing read some of the more important speeches and sermons that marked our time here as a nation. I'm going to finish up today with perhaps the most important sermon of the Great Awakening. You may have read it before, but I think it's important that you read it again to understand the attitude it provoked in its hearers, then, as characteristic of the power of the Great Awakening. I'd like you to go to the internet and pull up a copy of Jonathan Edwards' sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, and read it its entirety. It's too long for me to read here for our little short sessions here. Um, you want to take your time, read it. It may take you a couple of sittings to look it over. It does run a few pages, but it is a remarkable sermon. I've listened to it many times. So we'll continue with our studies. We have a lot more important things in American history to discuss, but I wanted to give you the what I think is a great basis for the idea of religious liberty that comes to our country. All right. Have a good day.